The sea is a generous giver and a merciless judge. On a calm evening off the coast of Nigeria, a small tugboat that had spent its life hauling larger ships and supporting offshore operations became a coffin. In a matter of minutes, the hull heeled over, the deck vanished beneath the ink-black water, and the world above was cut off forever. One by one, the crew lost their hold on air and hope. Everyone died except one man. The ship's cook survived. What followed was not heroic in any cinematic sense, but it was a slow, private war of endurance inside a shrinking, freezing cage. When the tug capsized and sank to the bottom, roughly 100 feet down, it came to rest inverted. Pockets of air trapped beneath the upturned hull offered a final, cruel refuge. The cook, beaten and bruised, managed to find one of these pockets. He climbed into a cramped space, maybe large enough for a person to curl into, and sealed himself away from total immersion. Around him was blackness so complete that it erased even the memory of stars. The first enemy was cold. At 100 feet, the water temperature plummets, and the metal of the hull conducted that cold into the air pocket. The cook's breath fogged and clung to him. He had no way to measure time, no watch that worked, no light. The second enemy was air itself. In a closed space, oxygen begins a steady decline while carbon dioxide rises. Each breath tasted heavier than the last. At first, he could stave off panic with small rituals, slow, measured inhalations, pressing his clothing against gaps, conserving skin-to-skin warmth where possible. He had the training and toughness that years at sea bring, but nothing in his life had prepared him for fighting the very air that keeps us alive. The pocket did not remain the same size. As the tug settled and pressure equalized, seawater found new paths inward through seams and rivets. Minute by minute, the air volume shrank. The cook felt water inching along the floor, then up his legs. He could not see it, but he could hear the faintest whispers of the ocean, like a distant tide against a shell. He built a mental map of his tiny chamber by touch, the curve of a bulkhead, the cold seam where metal met metal. This map became his world and his ritual. Touch replaced sight, memory replaced sunrise. Beyond physical dangers, the mind turned traitor. With no landmarks and a shrinking lungful of air, hallucinations began to press at the edges of his consciousness. He imagined conversations, the faces of family members in the dark, the tug's bell tolling with an impossible rhythm. Sometimes he convinced himself the air smelled different: salt-laced roses, diesel, last night's soup, an attempt by his brain to create meaning from sensory deprivation. Each invented scene could either steady him or sweep him nearer to surrender. He fought to keep his inner monologue precise and quiet, rationing thoughts as he rationed breath. Rescue efforts above were frantic but constrained by time and by the ocean itself. Divers searched the wreck, tapping and calling into small openings. They could not immediately find a survivor. The inverted hull hid its internal geometry. When divers did locate him, they were met with the scene of atmospheric peril, confined space, contaminated and hypoxic air, and a man nearly worn down to a shell of focus and luck. Their job was to extract him without causing a fatal change in pressure and without letting the last of his air escape too quickly. It was a delicate, technical rescue made urgent by the simplest human fact. His lungs were nearly spent. When the cook finally felt arms warm, human, he had to decide how to move. He climbed toward a dim, muffled light, like a blind animal following the faintest scent. The rescuers cut through metal, pried open seals, and managed to pull him into a bell of breathable air. It was not an immediate return to life. He required oxygen, rewarming, and psychological care. The medical teams spoke later about how astonishing it was that he had remained coherent enough to follow directions in the final moments. This is not just a story of luck. It is a catalog of tiny choices. The decision to find and enter an air pocket, the calm, measured breathing that prolonged oxygen reserves, the tactile mapping of an impossible cell, the mental discipline to ward off panic and the hallucinations that impersonate surrender. It is also a testament to the skill of rescuers who can translate danger into procedure and urgency into safety. In the end, the cook's survival did not erase the loss of his crewmates. It did, however, illuminate what it takes to survive an underwater tomb: resilience when the body is betrayed, discipline when the mind frays, and a fragile thread of hope that a hand will find you in the dark.